And after the Middle English period, we have the Renaissance period. Now, the Renaissance period was different here. Of course, we have the different periods within the Renaissance period, as you might know already. But what was different is, of course, the War of the Roses, which were the different region wars in England, kind of ended, and the Red Rose one, which is around London area. But also some other things that happened as well, like England established itself more as a country and started to explore the world a bit more and discover continents and other things and build its empire bigger and bigger. Of course, then this is also the period of Shakespeare and Ben Jonson and Thomas Wyatt and some other famous authors. And it was a lot about poetry at this time. It's a lot about exaggeration, about everything had to be to the extreme. Poetry had to be to the extreme, the music had to be to extreme, and the buildings such and such. This is why it's called the Renaissance period, as the extreme, over-the-top period. After that, we have the Neoclassical period, which is just the period before the Romantic and the 1700s. It's the 1600s in beginning of or mid up until late 1700s, as you can see. Poetry was still very famous, and also what was very much the difference from the 1600s is this is the time period when people start to question everything. They start to look at the individual instead. They start to question about the church, and they start to question about what is out there in the world, and is the earth not, why, if it's not flat, then how come we exist? And they looked at the stars, the telescope, and they looked at the inside the bodies to see and to ask questions of how things work. Science was very important. Therefore, these authors here usually focus on scientific people or people that believe in themselves and instead of relying on God. And then we came, after we had all this exaggeration period, which was the 1600, and then we had the 1700, which was all about science. Then feelings were remembered. So the Romantic period is a period where it's all about the human feelings. And so all these emotions and impressions and everything was exaggerated. That's why the Goth period is developed through here. This is also when the women started to write more and more and be accepted. And the only reason for that was because it was about feelings. And men considered women only to have a lot of feelings. And this is when the only way they could express themselves. Then, of course, here we had some historical contents that you can pause at any time and look at. And then the famous authors that is important to remember at that time.